just like that. Yeah. That's what I was doing.
That's great.
That's called frunking.
They look so comfortable. Right. Hey, we got to do a thing on frunking.
It's actually it's minus the G. It's frunking.
Frunking.
Yeah.
All right, we're back here at the LA Auto Show, and I'm very excited because we have a designer here who has designed a lot of cars that I didn't realize he designed, but I've looked up to for a long time. We've got Derek Jenkins. You are, Chief Captain of Brand and Design, Senior VP of Design for Lucid, who's doing some really fascinating design work lately, the Lucid Air, and then the new Lucid Gravity that just came out. So we're going to talk car design. We also have Alanis, everybody's favorite, Alanis King.
I also designed the Lucid.
Yeah, she also. Yeah, they worked together to design the Lucid.
Co-designed.
Yeah, that's me. Hi.
So it's a big treat to have her as well. And of course, we have our publisher Matt here, who's going to leave as soon as Beau Boeckmann gets here.
I'm just a seat filler.
Yeah,
like
he's
you
just
see at
keeping
the
it warm.
Oscars.
Beau does not like a cold seat, so
you got to be warm.
Matt keeps these things nice and toasty.
Oh, that's good because I sat in his Aston Martin Signet for a long time earlier.
It's nice and toasty, and that's what Beau seeks. Okay, but let's talk design. But before I talk about Lucid, before I talk about anything that could currently make you money, let's talk about things in the past that have no bearing whatsoever. And I want to start with, I think this is important. Let's do, Taylor, can we bring up the microbus concept?
Oh, this is so convenient. It's on the TV.
It is convenient. So on the screen here, I know podcast listeners can't see. We have a monitor here, and what this concept was in 2000, Volkswagen showed a microbus concept and got everybody excited, and then they decided, what's the smartest thing we can do? Let's wait 2 decades before actually releasing it to the public. But in the interim, they made like 5 other microbus, the Bully. I think they did so many, but I think if you look at your original concept, it's shockingly close to the ID Buzz that's around now. There's a lot of design cues. I mean, you're working from the same source.
I mean,
tell me about that.
I think at the time, so I'm a huge Volkswagen. That's how I got into cars. Yeah. My dad was into VWs and kind of grew into that. So the Bug and the Bus and the thing.
I got a 73 Beetle still.
So it's just in your blood. And so then that's drove me to work for Volkswagen and Audi. And so I worked with the gentleman Jay Mays, Freeman Thomas. Sure. And they did all the Beetle revival, the Audi TT. So the naturally the microbus was the next thing in line to try to tackle.
Right.
And so in 99 actually we started on the bus and then that debuted in 2000, 2001.
Yeah, I think it was at the 2000 auto shows. I remember seeing it.
And
in
it was
magazines.
just such a cool project, such an exciting thing, and it had great momentum within Wolfsburg. Yeah. There's always a million reasons not to do something. This was definitely kind of a little bit of it was a nostalgic play, but I felt it was relevant for the market.
Sure.
Because people like buses, and it could be a good SUV alternative.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't make it pencil for whatever reason, and it died a slow death.
And it's weird because it didn't really die. Here we go. We got a sample of it on the screen here, and it's a really it's a clearly 2000s design language, clean and modern. What he was using, but all of the traits of the old bus are there.
Yep.
And you hid the grill nicely. You still have the kind of V shape in the front. You got the vestigial vents in the back.
All little capsule details.
Yeah. I mean, this was lovely. And again, the current ID Buzz isn't that different.
Yeah, they've just they've modernized it. It's a similar size that they're bringing the long wheelbase version to the U.S.
Right.
It's a similar design, similar size. Obviously, it's updated for the times, but
not that the window design with the kind of double A pillars is the exact
silhouette
same.
And how they solve those areas. It's very, very similar.
These things are great, and those 3 intakes. I remember seeing those in the Eurovan also. That was because this was a combustion engine.
Yeah, this is a play on kind of all those slot details that you see on the early air cooled cars. We've kind of brought that into this, and those capsule shapes are everywhere on the exterior and interior, and that was really the detail philosophy at the time that we were pursuing. But cool project.
This is a great era for VW design.
Oh my God, the VW was really advanced. I mean, I was so lucky to have started my career with Volkswagen and Audi because people like Jay Mays, Freeman Thomas, Peter Schreier,
Right.
all doing just incredible things, and even Luke Dunkerville.
Oh yeah, wait. I think I made this graphic on our site just to show the similar. So we're right now, again, for your podcast listeners, I've got an original microbus, I've got the 2000 concept, and then the current ID Buzz released in 2023, and you see it's just not that different.
There's a lot there.
Like for all those decades, for the 2 decades that went in between, they just kind of wrapped back around to the initial update.
Funny,
So
yeah.
you should feel good because
I feel great. I'm going to buy one of those things. I'm super
like
excited about it. I have a T4 Eurovan.
Oh, I like it.
Yes,
No way.
A really nice
I
one.
like this.
Super clean. Pop top.
Underappreciated.
You didn't drive that here because there's one here on
parking lot.
Turbo Twists.
Yeah,
It's not in this parking lot. It's underneath the Marriott.
Oh.
Yeah. But I did drive it here, if that counts.
Also, another
Excellent.
tail I like is the tiny little spherical Eurovan lights. I think are very satisfying.
Yes, those are cool.
They're very appealing.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, this is great. Linus, I'm sorry.
Something
go ahead.
I think is
There it
really
is.
interesting about automotive design is that some vehicles take that timeless design and they look similar throughout the decades and the years. And then a lot of other vehicles go with the current styling trends. I'm very curious, why not just do timeless all the time?
It's like building the plane out of the black box, I think. Like,
I know.
I feel like that's kind of like saying why not record only classic songs
Yeah, why don't you do
and
only good
versus
stuff?
pop songs, right?
I mean,
feel
there's
it's hard to. I feel like sometimes it's hard to do simple and clean and honest.
Yeah.
Because that's what tends to age well.
Well, I think
you know?
that's with the bus. It wasn't ever made to be designed. It was a complete utility vehicle.
completely honest to its vehicle architecture, right?
Just
It's
how much room can we enclose?
exactly.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. Beau's here. All right,
Beau.
as promised.
Yep. So we were just talking about his microbus concept in 2000, which was amazing. And then let's also there's another.
Was that the Bully?
No, pre-bully.
Pre-bully.
The 2000
Which was
one.
the
That
yes.
one.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I do.
Everybody was
I
excited
didn't realize
by
that
that.
was you.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. Well, my team and myself at the time.
Yeah, well, it's always a team effort.
Yes,
right?
it absolutely is.
But I want to show another car that you had a hand in. Can you bring up the A2?
Now this is
By the way, we're all
more
mad that didn't
obscure vehicle.
This is
Oh,
obscure.
wow.
This is one of his favorite cars. I think this is an amazing
Wow.
design.
It
I think
really
it's to like a lot of eyes. It's tall and a little, but it's kind of adorable and sleek at the same time. Uses the space well. Tell us about this. So this is the Audi A2 again for podcast people. We're looking at something with a 2000s Audi design language and face, but the proportions are different. It's like tall and a little narrow. It's a interesting little city
It's
car.
very charming.
It is charming.
So that predates the microbus by, I don't know, 5 or 6 years in terms of project. But that at the time, Dr. Ferdinand Piëch was running the Volkswagen Group, and he was obsessed with this idea of 3-liter consumption, which means what is that, 100 kilometers per 3 liter of fuel.
That's why they made the XL1 eventually.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So
Right.
that's equivalent of like 80, 90 miles per gallon, you know. So
Yeah.
he had us all working on these really, really aerodynamic. They had to be narrow and they had to be tall to get the kind of packaging they were looking for. At the time, this was like a Polo, Volkswagen Polo sized vehicle. And I know these are all non-North American vehicles, but and so it had really advanced turbo diesel. Everything was just
He gave you those
super
great proportions, make it skinny and
I know,
tall.
it's
the
but
exact
it's
opposite.
brutal.
And beautiful,
the
by the way.
design brief was just brutal. I'm
Yeah,
like,
like,
can't we just
I can
make this
imagine.
thing another 3 inches wider, please? And you know,
A little
and
lower,
it's just
wider, you know?
really, really, really difficult
Doesn't the air
projects.
go in all directions? I don't know.
Yeah, but you know, it was a boot camp kind of project for me because I was straight out of school. Jay Mays at the time was running Audi design,
Right
and Freeman Thomas had come over.
We were just with Freeman.
Yeah, Freeman's a longtime friend and mentor, I should say.
Right on.
And he came over we were all moved with Jay over to Ingolstadt, and Freeman got the TT project, and I got handed this, which is like, you know, way, way more difficult. But of course, you know, Freeman was destined to do the TT, you know.
Yeah.
And this was a great experience for me as well.
I love these, and when they turn 25, I think it'd be a fun thing to bring to America because nobody would know what the hell you're
It's
driving.
got a cult-like
absolutely.
following
Yeah.
in Europe, which is pretty fascinating. But it was probably ahead of its time in terms of like a premium compact car,
Right.
and you bought it for its efficiency, which at the time probably wasn't the hottest thing, but now it's more in.
Right.
Well, you
know?
took some terrible restrictions and turned it into something really beautiful and interesting. And
look at that divided rear
and
window.
it lasts.
Yeah, it was, and it had a ton of interior space for its size.
I bet
It was
it
very
did.
useful.
And it's just, interiors feel so much bigger when you have headroom.
Yes.
They feel so much bigger when you just have
Absolutely.
room to spread out.
Totally. It
Yeah,
just
not
your
good for the
perception
exterior,
of
but
space.
for the interior, yes.
No, really not good for the exterior, but it's kind of like when you have panoramic sunroofs and
Yeah.
moonroofs, or you have that high ceiling, you just feel so airy
Yeah.
and
Well,
nice.
The last year that it was in production, they did this lifestyle versions.
Yeah.
That came in like bright yellow, bright orange. They had a little wider fender and bigger wheels, and those just that was like, oh, that's more like I wish they could have more of them could have been like that because it looked more sporty. You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, so another car, Atlantis, you like this one because it has infinite headroom, and I know it's a car close to your heart. Can we bring up the Mazda? Yeah, so
Oh, yeah.
also
Yeah.
worked on, of course, the MX-5. And the thing I want to note about this car is it bucks a design trend that I've always hated, which is angry-looking car faces.
Yes.
This one looks like the face is a little unhinged.
Yeah.
It's happy,
It's like-
but it's a little
it's maniacal.
bonkers. It's a little maniacal, but it doesn't
Happy
look
down
like it.
here.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But the eyes are like it's a grin because it's having a good time, but it doesn't look like it wants you dead.
Yes.
Like so many cars.
But there's a whole story here because if if you're familiar with the Miata kind of lineage and all how everything came about from kind of Lotus Elan and Tom Matano and then the first Miata, they always had a little bit of a friendly personality.
Yeah.
And they kind of stayed like that. And then when this car came along, this is before kind of the big Miata revival that's kind of happened over the last 8-9 years, especially where you see young people like, you know, completely obsessed with the Miata. That wasn't the case when we were doing this project. And we were like, went to Japan and we were saying, hey, you know, we need to make the Miata look more intentionally sporty and a little bit more aggressive. Don't want to get rid of the lineage of the classic Roadster by any means. And that's how it had kind of evolved. And it ended up with this approachable but like a little more intense look about it.
Yeah, a little crazy behind the eyes.
Absolutely.
the eyes are a little.
Yeah.
You're not gonna let
looked at that way.
This
but
car's
you're
not.
right.
You're not gonna let it watch your kids, but and you'll have a good time with it too.
Well, I think what's so interesting about the Miata is that throughout all 4 generations of the car, you have a different looking vehicle each
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And you have people who are like obsessed with the 2nd generation or obsessed with the 4th generation. Yeah. You have people who really dislike the 3rd generation and people who like it. I mean, there's something
very
really for
true.
everyone, and you still get a similar package driving wise. You get the 50-50 weight distribution, you get all of that. But you get something that looks different. And I think it's really cool that within one car, you have so many different personalities you could choose.
Yeah, very true.
There was one.
And I'm so proud of Mazda for sticking with it, too.
That's true.
When
That's a good
everyone's
point.
abandoning the fun stuff.
Yeah, okay, that's another thing that so many people don't give automakers credit for when you could just go for volume seller SUVs all the time. It's actually really impressive that this
Yeah,
car is
there
on
you
sale.
go.
It's very impressive that enthusiast gas-powered cars are on sale because they are not market sellers. They're
No.
not.
That's true.
But if
And-
you hang in there long enough, like, Ford now with the Mustang, the last one standing. We'll see what comes back next. But, yeah, I'm proud when companies go a little different direction than everyone else.
And Mazda truly saw the Roadster and this lightweight, fun to drive as like their DNA. Like this was the epitome and the most distilled version of it. But then they'd put that the best they could into a Mazda 3 and a Mazda 6, and that was
5.
their thing. You know, that's their thing. It's still their thing. They're doing
Yeah.
it better than ever, in my opinion. And it's I think the MX-5 and the Miata lineage has been such a big part of keeping that alive.
yeah.
I think when people say they don't like the way the 3rd generation looks, I think they're lying to themselves. That is an adorable car.
Yeah,
that is
it's
a
pretty fun.
great
It
looking car.
is.
You put some aftermarket wheels on a 3rd generation Miata, and it is stunning. I saw a blue one the other day with, I think, bronze aftermarket wheels. It was beautiful. That is a cool looking car.
I agree.
I think they all stand.
They all
the test.
have their
All of
own.
them.
Yeah.
They all have their own
Do you know-
benefit.
I have a question for a lot of car design, and this is an issue that I've noted I think a lot of people saw in the Miata, is if you live in a state that requires a front plate, and that front plate is white, on the Miata it looks like buck teeth.
Yeah.
How much thought do you guys give to front license plates? Because I've seen a lot of cars recently that seem to have given zero thought.
Yeah.
They just ignore
Yeah.
that it's a thing, and then it's awkward to put it on.
So
Yeah.
good in the brochure.
It looks so good in the brochure. Like, there's a reason you guys probably picked a black plate if
Well,
you're going to put
I mean,
one there.
certainly. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, actually.
That's more of a donkey, huh?
Yeah, that's a little bit.
I think there's a degree of denial there. Like the designers are really like, people will just leave the plates off,
Yeah.
not knowing that like
You
more
get
and more.
tickets.
Yeah,
You
you get
can't do
tickets.
it,
It's
yeah.
legislated.
Oh.
So, certainly I take that super serious. But at the same time, I mean, if you think about kind of early 2000s through, 15, 16, grills and mouths were getting bigger and bigger
Yes,
and bigger.
very
And
definitely.
arguably, some folks are still doing that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that was kind of like, screw it, we're just going to make the biggest, most angry
Yeah.
mouth, and
Yep.
only small percentage of it is actually taking in air.
Sure, yeah.
But that's a minor detail,
Right.
and I think that's where that maybe the industry and a lot of design thinking was just don't even think about the number plate, just make the mouth look gnarly,
It feels that way because it feels like there's just some cars where they just didn't even care. Yeah.
So how about now when you're designing EVs and
Oh, yeah.
talked about those that have kind of made this phony front grille, which to me is like,
I think it's
why
silly.
Are you doing
Embrace being an EV.
Yes,
Embrace it.
absolutely.
Yeah, I like a grillist. Well, let's take a look at the Air. What did you do a lot with the Air?
Yeah, I did the
You did the Air. So before we get to the Gravity, let's go to the Air because that was the first one. But that defined the Lucid design language. So maybe you could tell us what is the Lucid design language? What kinds of things you're doing? It's got the tail,
It's got the crazy
the
cargo.
trunk that I love.
Yeah.
It's really bonkers.
That is wild.
It is wild. Like the whole thing opens up, and I guess legally you had to have the extra taillights there.
That's Gravity interior.
That's
so
a Gravity.
That's
Do we have a front end of the Air, Taylor, that we can look at? Because I want to see how you handled the. Because there's a little bit of air intake that's needed, just a lot
absolutely.
less.
It's a lot less with electric cars, and the thermal management it's not nearly as doesn't get nearly as warm. What
Right.
you're trying to do is regulate it within a narrower spectrum.
I was actually talking to an EV engineer, and he was talking about treating heat like a resource almost.
Yeah,
like
because
we're in
that's
a-
energy.
Right, like
Yeah.
in a conventional gas car, you just want to get rid of it. They actually have to manage it and store it and keep it, so it's actually a much more complex problem.
That's
than before.
right. Yeah, think of it a lot like how we think of regenerative braking now.
Yeah.
You're recouping energy.
Yes.
Well, we're recouping heat to heat the cabin, for
Right.
example.
Okay.
With Lucid Air, I mean, when I came here, it's like I tend to like simpler, cleaner designs.
Yeah.
I like stuff that's a little more streamlined. Like a Porsche 911 type of vibe, and I
Yep.
think that's been really influential. And now when you get into electrification, you don't need a big long hood for a huge V8.
Right.
You don't need a big mouth for cooling. So then it's like, how do we get this kind of aircraft streamlined seamlessness to the vehicle?
Yeah.
And that led to just the simple headlight, blade, and
Yeah.
simple mouth, and then. But at the same time, how do we give it sculpting and make it still a little bit of voluptuous and like kind of dynamic in its own right? And that's kind of where we ended up with Air.
Yeah, well,
How
to
many-
me, it's beautifully sculpted, and picking another, it's fluid to me too.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's really gorgeous. And
Thank
for
you.
an EV, to me, this is how an EV should really be designed.
And in person, it's striking because it's got some
Absolutely.
gravity. It's a substantial
It's
car.
it's
Yeah,
wide and it's low.
It
It's
is.
sometimes a little deceiving in pictures, but it's about 20 to 30 millimeters lower than anything else
Is
in
this
its
just
class.
just to make up for doing the A2? Is that just made us wide?
Yeah, it's
and
like,
low?
okay, I'm done with this super tall. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
this
narrow
pig.
and tall. This is low and wide.
He's just rolling around his grave.
Yes.
I would love to ask a basic process question.
Yes.
When you have a virtually blank slate, you are designing a new car. You can do whatever
true.
you want.
No heritage here.
Yeah,
On my
no-
79 Lucid.
Yes,
Yeah.
no heritage. What does the design team do? How do you start? Do people just start sketching and you start choosing, oh, I like the look of this, let's go this way? Who starts it?
Do you start
Yeah.
drinking first and then
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Yeah. That's a big part of it for sure.
How does this process go? How does it
I
start? How does it
think-
continue?
Well, okay. There's always some parameters, right? So when I came into the fray, I came on board after meeting Peter Rawlinson. He's our CEO, CTO. He was the chief engineer for a Model S, Tesla, and he had really strong convictions that he wanted to do kind of the next generation sedan, and we were going to just max out for efficiency, aerodynamics, and range, right? So that was already okay. Well, so we're going to do a sedan, and we're going to try to maximize this kind of interior space, aerodynamics, and so that already kind of gives you like a skeleton to start with, right? So then we started to maximize this long sweeping cabin, lots of interior space, lots of second row kind of almost limousine-like leg room. Had to be very sleek. Didn't have a big motor up front, so we knew that was going to be low. And that's when there was almost like an aha moment where we said, you know what? Let's really lean into this pure, simple, sculpted thing, aircraft-like honesty to the car, and that will define the look. So then the team just explored that.
That's really cool. So when you have these parameters, do those parameters get given to you as the head and you go, okay, I'm going to sketch up something, I'm going to sketch a starting point? Or do those parameters get given to everybody and you all start pitching in ideas? How does that work at the
I
beginning?
feel like it's a bit of both. I mean, you build up a small team of people. In our case, we were like 5 people at the time. And the team just started sketching, but we were like, you do the trend board thing. You say, I love the way, I love this old plane, and I love the sculpting on this E-Type, and I love
Were there some other cars on these boards? I feel like there's a little with Citroen DSs.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
it
the
feels
DS,
like
you have
Yeah.
the 911, you have the E-Types, these types of kind
It's
of
a good list.
It's a good list.
fluid
Yeah.
form
Great list.
language. And it's like that kind of set. And then we had we did this thing. Well, this is actually interesting. We did the key generations of aviation.
Oh.
We went back to kind of the early days of aviation, and then kind of World War II, and then kind of jet age, and then what's happening with modern aviation, and just kind of it's interesting to look at that because there's this streamlined era where it's really elegant and pure and a lot of materials, aluminum and glass, and we were just like, this is probably more where we want to be, but then there's something high tech about the modern aviation era. So we're taking influence from that. Lighting is really revolutionary right now.
How many headlights are on the?
So this car has 6 modules per side, so 12 total modules.
And let's look at the Gravity here, because I don't want to run out
As
of
a
time.
Lagonda fan, the more headlights, the better. Just saying.
So translating that design language you've established with the Air to something much bulkier and taller.
Yeah, that's actually an early concept. This is the Gravity we just showed.
Yeah.
It was a similar thing.
How'd you get that so pixeled?
Yeah. Why do we have such a Gravity?
I don't know. I'm not sure what's happened here.
For those listening at home, it's quite a
Our
pixelated
Commodore
picture.
64 that's running this is working hard.
Yeah, I mean, now, the follow-up to Air, we knew we had to follow some of the DNA, so there's a family resemblance, but
Yeah.
at the same time, the set of parameters for Gravity is pretty hard to achieve. We knew we wanted to get below 0.24 drag coefficient,
Wow.
which for an SUV is
Yeah.
just bonkers. We know we needed 7 passenger seating. We needed huge cargo. We wanted a big frunk. And so
So
there's
it's like a giant A2.
Yeah. There we go.
It's funny
circle.
because
comes
that's what
back.
I was saying. We were talking about the A2, and I was like, there's aspects of the challenge of getting all of this in one vehicle.
Yeah.
But I just felt like this is more in tune with I feel where consumers are. If I'm going to buy a 3-row SUV in a luxury price point, so 75, 80,000 plus. I want something that kind of does everything really, really well.
Yeah.
And if it's going to be electric, it better get great range because otherwise I'm going to keep driving a gas car.
Right.
And so, that kind of defined the parameters. And again, you follow that pathway. I need this much space. I need this much cargo. I need this aerodynamic number. And then you start working the form into shape and really contouring it to get it to do and say the things you want it to communicate. Yeah.
I was just over there with the Gravity, and the frunk actually on the car that I was in, you can open the frunk, sit in it, and you have a cup holder and a power outlet, and then the frunk actually forms a shade over your head.
Where do your feet like?
So
Does
you
the
can't
front
see it
fold
there.
down?
You can't see it
Is it-
there.
The
It's
hood
just
open,
yes, so the hood opens up,
but it opens
and
like
it's-
with the front panel.
and there's a bench. Yeah, so the front
I
panel.
love
is
that.
You did like a little cushion that you
hang
sit
out
on.
in the front.
Totally.
Yeah. I used
Totally.
to sit in. I had a
I
Super
used to-
Beetle that had the tire under there. I used to sit under there like that with the canopy.
Right.
I love that they're doing that.
It acts
now.
as a shade.
Yeah.
It's
So, when we
cool.
get locked in the front, we have something to
Yeah,
do,
something
and a
to
place
do.
to put
Yeah,
our
have a
drink.
drink.
This is
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's funny because I was
That's great.
driving north on Coast Highway a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
and
look at that! Yeah, holy crap!
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah.
That's what
That's
I was
amazing.
doing.
Frunk, that's
What a great idea.
That's called frunking.
It looks
now,
uncomfortable.
All right. Hey, we got to do a thing on frunking.
Dude,
It's actually
me.
it's minus the G. It's frunking.
Frunking.
Yeah.
Is that a cushion? Is there like?
That's a
Is there
front.
There
like,
Frunking
is.
good
There's like a
time.
really
It's
comfy
soft.
cushion, and
so
it,
there's
it-
like a seat unit.
It's soft,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can sit
Wait,
two
This is
people.
We gotta go get in this thing.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
Our market research said everybody's looking for this. So of
course they are.
I'm kidding.
Is there
But
enough
you know,
of a gap?
everybody loves something fun.
Of course,
You know?
yeah.
And you could probably drive it a little bit. That gap between the window, you could probably go. You know, you keep
So
it.
this is our 9-passenger.
Keep it under 50, and you're probably fine.
Yeah, you can put the kids up there.
Yeah, the kids, exactly.
Kids
They'd
are fine.
Honestly, they'd love it until
They would love
crap
it.
their pants. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. It looks good with an Airstream.
6,000 pound towing capacity.
Really? For how long, though?
What's that?
For
Oh
how
yeah,
long?
you're gonna use up your range pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That's why I thought that I heard that trailer out there actually has an electric motor.
It has
to help
some of its
push.
own
That's-
propulsion.
That's,
That's
brilliant.
right. Yeah,
That's a great
yeah.
idea.
That's
And
going to
battery-
take
you
off.
could technically put battery in there. To
That's
help
right.
out-
Yeah.
And
Super
beautiful,
sophisticated interior. Very
Yeah, it's
clean.
lovely.
Is that wood?
That is real wood.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
The big innovation here is we have the OLED screen up above, and this is pushed up in the car. We reshape the steering wheel, kind of a squircle.
It is
type
squirt.
shirt.
Oh, but you're right.
Very
The axis is a little higher than you would normally
That's right.
expect.
Yeah,
Huh.
it
But
is.
the big innovation here is you view the display over the steering wheel,
Instead of
not
through
through
it.
it, which causes a
Good.
lot of screen
And
blockage.
you don't
Yeah.
need a stupid, yoke.
No, yeah, well, there's that too.
And you can manually adjust the air conditioning.
Yeah, it's get this analog air vent,
You are brilliant, my
Yeah.
friend.
I love that. Yeah.
cutting edge.
So
Touch it and
who
move it.
thought this was a better idea to make
don't
a
know.
computer like where I want to put my air? I'm hot. I just want
To have to
air-
go to a
jeez.
menu when you're trying to change the air blowing on you. Wind.
Thank you.
Hate
Some
it.
things you just
Yeah.
can't
You-
approve.
yeah.
Wait, does
you
your
know?
glove box open with a latch, or do you have to go through the screen? Don't tell me
Through the screen, but it's right there. You can't miss it. You can't miss it. It's like so obvious.
Well, he got the air
Got
conditioning
the
vent,
AC,
so it's
but
okay.
it's
Well,
maybe
we'll give
something
you
you
a
can
pass.
Well, put it
work
this:
on
the button in the
facelift.
screen's right next to the glove
Is it
box.
But
always
here's
the-
the thing. I very rarely use the glove box. To be fair,
sure.
every
True.
day I'm using air conditioning. We're in LA, It's
Yeah.
it's
The
gonna be
AC
hot.
is more important.
So
Yeah.
it's all forgiven. I don't
All
mind.
right.
I appreciate
Okay.
it.
All right.
Okay, I will admit there is a little bit of fun to popping something open in a screen because I drove the Tesla
Sure.
Model 3 Performance the other day.
Yeah.
And you touch the little car and the frunk pops. You touch the car on the screen and it pops. And you're like, oh, how crazy.
cool.
I will admit
Yeah.
that sounds satisfying.
It actually
Yes.
is quite satisfying to just press the car.
Is it a little haptic or anything?
Yeah,
I
it's
love the
haptic.
haptic response.
Yeah, it's haptic and then boop, just opens up.
I'm not down with the
Well,
screen.
It's fun.
okay. I guess the question is: do you have to go through a menu to open up the?
Is it
glove
always
box?
there, the glove box button?
So there's one way we do this. We put all the car controls under one swipe. Boom.
So you made
Okay.
it easier.
Exactly.
So it's not as bad as Cadillac.
And you don't
It's
even
okay.
need to look down. You just swipe and boom. You know?
Okay. All right. Since we've given you a little bit of guff, honestly, beautiful designs.
Thank
your
you.
lineage of things you've done. Oh, I didn't even show
Well,
the
if that's
Ragster.
the worst thing we have to say about anything, because everything is really beautifully done. I
Yes.
mean,
Appreciate
if that's
that.
our biggest criticism is the buttons
Yeah,
on the
honestly,
menu.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll
you're
take
doing
it. I'll
a great
take it.
job.
Coming out
Yeah.
okay for the most part.
Yeah, that was a fun
I did want to
project.
mention the Ragster because I'm a Beetle guy, and I thought this concept was so much fun when it came out, just because people have been cropping the tops,
Yes.
chopping a Beetle for decades.
Yeah.
And to see like a factory concept that had like the chopped roof, it was just fun. And
Yeah, this was a super fun project.
These
and
were and like this era of the first generation of New Beetle, I feel like people have forgotten how much of a big deal these were when they came
Oh,
out.
it was insane
It was
when
so
this
much
car
fun,
first came
and I
out.
think this was one of the peaks of that era. I love those.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Your Beetle fetish, it's never ending.
It's never ending.
I love that.
I'm about the signet, so you
Oh,
know,
well,
that-
thank you.
Yeah, I said I almost did theft on your car earlier.
We're not gonna do theft.
Almost.
Been watching
Don't
it
do
pretty
that.
close, but
You,
if
you
you're,
gotta
if
keep
you're
an eye on
fast-
it. You gotta keep an
Yeah.
eye on it because I'm looking at it.
The best part was we were setting up yesterday, and I needed to move it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to drive this thing around and take a look at things. I've actually used this car for transportation, driving around in here, and that was so fun. I don't know.
I would die. It makes me so happy. That car makes me so happy. It's
Well,
beautiful.
after hours, wait till everyone closes down. We're just driving around the lot, driving around in here. So, don't tell
Don't
management.
tell anybody.
This isn't live, is it?
No, it's not.
Anyway.
No one will hear.
All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was
That
just going to
gonna
say
be a
on.
wrap-up thing.
Well,
keep going. Keep
wrap
going.
up,
Though.
we got to wrap up with some things on Lucid as well. So,
Yeah.
see, I don't know. Maybe I missed the press release. When is the Gravity coming out? And can you tell us a little bit more? Like maybe I missed a little.
No, I
earlier?
actually didn't read. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah, no, I mean, today
the main
It's
reason
probably
you're here.
good. Yeah.
today was the global debut.
Yeah.
You know, the car we're showing is the car we're making, and we'll start building those and delivering those end of next year.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that these things start at 27.5 is
Yeah.
astounding.
Wait,
How you do it?
How do you do it? Don't even get it.
The wheels are 27.
Nobody knows
do you
about
have
that
it?
one.
Oh, okay.
Now, have you announced like range or price? Or
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
like that?
it's over 440 miles of range.
Wow, really?
Fantastic.
Yeah, out of
that's
a
a lot.
similar battery pack to Lucid Air. So
Wow.
we're really proud of that because it's all about efficiency.
Yep.
There's a bit of a trend going on right now where some are just adding more and more and more batteries to get
Right.
300 miles range, and it's the equivalent of taking an inefficient gas vehicle and just making the gas tank bigger, and
Right.
that's not solving anything,
Right.
right? And so we're really very, very focused on efficiency and doing that, but still giving you kind of groundbreaking, class-leading range. That's the first thing, but still going to have 800 horsepower,
Awesome.
7 passengers, 0 to 60 in under 3.5 seconds.
Wow. So wait, so you did a test
Per
with,
passenger,
with
that's
all
a-
passengers in it? So loaded with 7 passengers, it'll do 0 to 60 in under 3
That's our
seconds?
projected.
Okay.
But we usually beat our projections. So
Oh, boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes out, we can get the Autopian staff.
Oh, yeah,
all
we get the
7 of
whole
us,
staff.
and we'll,
Yeah.
And
or
we'll
you
test
guys
it
come
out.
along, we can
Great
all do it
idea.
together.
Yeah.
We play. And you're
Love
right, I'll
it.
probably beat it.
That's
So in this
right, that's
picture we
right.
have on the screen, we've
Yeah.
got we've got the Gravity with a roof rack, some surfboards. How much of a range hit do you think that roof rack would take?
If we let's say we had the 440 on a EPA, I would say you're going to lose probably 40 miles from that.
That's not terrible. So
It's
you're still
not
at 400
terrible.
miles. Yeah,
but
so
it's
bad.
still a chunk. I
Yeah,
mean,
it is
it's
a chunk.
10%. You
Yeah.
know.
But if you said that thing is 40 miles, you go, no. But it is.
I remember.
But it shows you the sensitivity of
Yeah.
airflow,
Yeah.
and you start to, it's like the whole discussion about rear view mirrors and why is the
Right.
spoiler like that?
Yep.
It all adds up.
all
If
matters.
you have these dozen different elements across the vehicle, and each one's a few counts of drag, and it adds up to
Yeah.
enough to really impact. And you can also do the math, because it's like if I can get X number of counts here and there, and that translates to weight or
Sure.
any other way you'd alter your range.
And pricing. That's the only thing I didn't hear. Did you announce that yet?
Yeah, so we announced today that it'll start under 80K.
Oh, under
Yeah.
80K. All right.
So Lucid's really, kind of getting more price competitive.
Yeah, I mean, we
we
started at a certain premium with Lucid Air. We've also been working on bringing that down as we
Yep.
mature our supply chain and our production capability. We're bringing the price down, making it more accessible. We announced what I think will be a true value with Gravity. And then long term, the goal is not to only make luxury cars at exclusive prices, but to make it go to a more mainstream audience over time. So we're already working on a mid-size program.
It's great.
For the future.
I was going to ask, but it's almost like a little rude asking at the introduction. So what's next?
Yeah,
You
it's
just-
like,
you just gave
Is
birth.
this all you've been doing all this time?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it sounds like the only thing you're missing is dealers. Everybody loves dealers. I don't know if you know
They
that,
do.
but it's true. But anyway, it's been a real pleasure,
Yes.
and
Thank
this has
you.
been a really interesting.
No, it's been a
and I
treat.
didn't know your depth of all the. Cars that you've worked on and really some beautiful things and you've really met challenges like head first and come out with something beautiful on the other side.
I
So
appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's been
congratulations and
fun
well
talking
done.
to you guys. Really liked
Yeah.
it.
Well, thanks
me too.
again. And again, this is the Autopian podcast.
Take us for a ride in that frunk.
Oh, yeah, I do want to ride in front. Yeah, so at the www.autopian.com. Alanis, thanks for coming out. Derek, thanks for coming out. And yeah.
Check out Cars and
Thanks so much.
Bids.
There you go.
You can find all these podcasts and some really wonderful articles you can't get anywhere else on www.theautopian.com. And P.S., if you love what we do here, you can become a vinyl velour or rich Corinthian leather member of The Autopian by going to theautopian.com and clicking the button that says support us, because as these podcasts are probably demonstrating, we need all the help we can get.